Often with consoles, you end up getting the hardware cheaper up front, and then they have various ways of getting more money from you later down the line. And people often focus on the initial cost for a console and overlook all the later cost that they have to pay extra. And this is why I think Sony kind of screwed up with the PS5 Pro, because at $700 it really isn't better in terms of hardware than even a PC at the same price. And as we see here, I was able to match or exceed the PS5 Pro in terms of everything except for the GPU itself, where I did have to go with perhaps inferior 6750 XT. But even with that, at least on paper, weaker graphics card, this PC as a whole will still provide a significantly better gaming experience, because you will not be kneecapped by a super bad CPU, because this is the ugly truth about the PS5 Pro, is that the CPU is really too weak to really take good advantage of that extra GPU power. And this is why you couldn't spot much difference in the comparisons, because you really don't need that much more GPU power anyway for that console. What you really need is a higher frame rate than 60 to really get a better experience. And even in game where the PS5 Pro can do that, a lot of devs will not even bother implementing that. What makes the matter even worse with the PS5 Pro is that a lot of games will not even get updated for the new system. And we actually saw that with the PS4 Pro, it was like 0.3% of the games that got like enhanced for the PS4 Pro. Most devs didn't really bother with it, so a lot of the time when you play more niche games, you will not get any benefit from that extra GPU power, because the game will not be paired to take any advantage of it. It's basically a total waste. So I really recommend going for PC instead, because in practice on average you will have a better experience even when GPU limited with that weaker GPU, probably because you can actually take better advantage of it on PC, because then in pretty much every game it will utilize it. It will not require patches for more powerful hardware. It will take advantage of it right away, no need for wait for a patch, and no need to like pay extra or anything for that enhancement. Now if you take a look at the PC that actually beats the PS5 Pro even in terms of the GPU, we see that it only costs at most $230 extra. Or if you buy a stand for your PS5 Pro, it's $200, and if you buy a disc drive it's down to $120. And then when you pay for PlayStation Plus after 2-3 years, it's more expensive than if you had gone for the superior PC, so don't be stupid. And to be fair here, the CPU, motherboard and RAM is kinda temporary parts that are all parts to replace later down the line. It's not things you will be able to reuse, but this is why I went for cheap options, both for the RAM, CPU and motherboard, because these are not things you really want to keep using for too long. This is a way to get into PC gaming without paying too much money. And here you actually got a fairly nice GPU as well, that I think is a decent match for that CPU. If I had this system, I will actually upgrade the CPU first and then after that replace the GPU, because I'm more into productivity. So for me, I wouldn't use that CPU. I would use a top of the line one because I really use the CPU power a lot. I actually do it with my i9 3900KF. And of course you can go way higher than that, but then if you want parts that are more future-proof, to the extent you can future-proof hardware, you will have to pay more money. And here instead you save the money towards parts later down the line, because let's say you go for a more expensive system like this one, then you might realize later that maybe this motherboard wasn't what you wanted, you maybe need something else. And then if you had saved your money, you can choose a more suited motherboard for what you want when you actually upgrade, instead of being stuck with a platform you don't really want and then you have to pay even more money to replace it. Or you might realize that Intel has a better offering at the time. So I'm not sure how much worthwhile it is to buy like a motherboard for the future. But here at least you do get decent DDR5, which you will be able to reuse regardless. I will recommend getting DDR5 memory if you can, because then you will be able to carry it over for your next system. And this memory is actually decent. I will probably go with 2 times 24 at least, to be honest, but it still works fairly good. And even though this memory is cheap, it's actually pretty much top of the line anyway in terms of overclocking. So even though you pay for 6000 TL30, it can go way higher than that. Probably like 7,000-8,000 if your CPU can support that. So it's actually a lot better than you think even for this price. So DDR5 is actually fairly affordable. And here of course the problem is the graphics card. You want something more powerful than the 4070. So this is a system where you maybe will replace the GPU first, and then later down the line maybe upgrade the CPU and hope that the motherboard is still a good option for you. It might not be like in 3 years. You might have to replace that as well, unfortunately. Which is why I'm not really a fan of this particular build. It's an example of how you might try to future-proof and then maybe failing. Or you might realize that you want like 2 times 24 GB of RAM. Or maybe by the time you upgrade, let's say you go for this build instead, you might realize that you don't even want to go with the DDR5 at it, but maybe DDR6 has already come by the time you have money for that big upgrade. So with everything like future-proofing, you can only do it to some extent, and there's no guarantee that what you buy is going to like work for your next system. Generally with GPUs it tend to be fairly universal, so if you buy like a 4090 it will be pretty future-proof in the sense that it will be very powerful, but then you might need like DisplayPort 2.0 eventually, and it doesn't support that.